had to jump out of the plane twice to get that transformation. So the first time I jumped in memory of my grandfather, and it gave me courage. But the second time I jumped for my own freedom, declaring myself as a healthy woman, right? And that gives me hope.
Welcome to the Crossing It Off podcast, where we believe living with intention through a bucket list lifestyle is a great way to bring yourself personal joy. As you are crossing items off your list, you're actually filling up your bucket. The more items you cross off, the more joy gets added, until eventually your joy spills over into the lives of those around you. My name is Roger Williams, and as the host of this show, I will be interviewing guests, people just like you that are crossing items off their own bucket list. My hope is that by hearing these stories, you will be inspired and empowered to cross items off your own bucket list. When you find something impactful for your journey, we invite you to share the episode with one other person and leave an honest rating or review of the show. This is an amazing way for you to gift those feelings of inspiration and joy to others. Now let's start crossing it off together. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Crossing It Off podcast. We are going to do the item that so many people have on their list. I constantly hear people saying, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. And our guest today has done it. Adrienne Tichy describes herself as a champion for the marginalized, and we're excited that she's here with us to share her story. Adrienne, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
So what is it that you crossed off your bucket list?
I actually jumped out of a plane over the Florida Keys twice.
Okay. Did you have a parachute on?
The guy behind me did.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure we just weren't jumping.
The guy behind me did. And he had dinner reservations at 7:00. So he told us, don't worry.
Yeah. He wanted to make his time. Awesome. So many people have this on their list, and I've found that it's for so many different reasons. Go back and tell us your story, like your origin story. What was going on in your life before you decided to do this thing?
You know, that's a great angle. I was at a place in my life where I had just come off of being sick and gravely sick. I have a divided pancreas from birth, and then I was taken out by the baseman runner while playing softball when I was 23, and the trajectory of my life went from being a regular person to being someone who was constantly in doctors, hospitals, operating rooms, procedures. So infusing my own nutrition through an IV line that went into my heart. I mean, just crazy things. I was in Key West. Well, we were actually in Cudjoe Key, but the Florida Keys, the South Keys. And I was with a girlfriend of mine, and we were just getting away to relax. You know, I was doing fairly well at the time. I wasn't cured. I still am not by any means, but it was a relatively good period. And this was about 7 years ago.
Okay.
The first time. It was actually serendipity because I turned left instead of right. And when you go on the Keys, there's only one, there's north or south, and that's it, right? So it took me a while to figure out that we had turned the wrong direction. But in the meantime, I saw this Skydive Key West. And I didn't have enough time because we had an appointment. My girlfriend and I were going to get spa treatments. And I turned the car around, and we went back and we got our spa treatments. I texted my husband and I said, "Are you sitting down?" And immediately the phone rings, and it's him. I said, "Hey, babe, just want to let you know I'm jumping out of a plane today." Because we are committed. We've been married 10 years, absolute love of my life, but we usually make decisions together. And this, I would say this is a pretty large decision.
Yeah.
Right? Especially for somebody who, like I said, has been with me when I've been gravely ill. And he's so super protective of me. But I'll tell you what happened to me when I saw that sign. I immediately knew that I was going to do it. and I was going to do it for my grandfather. My
Mm,
grandfather died the same year that I was taken out playing softball, 1995. And he was a tail gunner in a
mm.
B-52 in a turret, man, like where he could see people shooting at him and
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, one of the most vulnerable spots on the plane.
Yeah, and he got 3 Purple Hearts because he parachuted out once and he was over occupied France and nobody's going to get you, you know.
Right,
So
right.
this is a metaphor for life. All of this stuff was going on in my life, and I just wanted to suck the marrow out of the bone of life at the moment because I was feeling well again.
So you you go from a spa treatment to jumping out of a plane. Okay, my question is how did your girlfriend respond to that? I mean,
Oh my
she's going
gosh,
for a
he was
relaxing time at the spa and you're saying, "Hey, when we're done, I'm going to jump out of a plane."
That's exactly what happened. Isn't that crazy, Roger? So yeah, no, she was afraid. My husband said if I didn't come back that she should keep driving,
Not her fault.
and he was going to come looking for her if I didn't come back in one piece. She couldn't believe it, but she knows me,
Mm,
anybody that knows me, if I've climbed rocks with, sciatica down my leg and I had to shove that thing in a crevice, and pull
sure.
myself up with my own body weight was hard as, I like to, when I go skiing, I like to ski in the woods,
Oh,
because
right.
that's where all the jumps are.
Backcountry.
Yeah, so I've had my experience with extreme sports. So I actually wasn't afraid of the jumping out of the plane. I was afraid of the plane itself.
Right.
Like that thing's, have you seen it? You open the door and it's like my garage floor, you know?
It's not like flying on emeritus air or anything, that's for sure.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
So you decide to do this. It's something that's you're passionate about, obviously, going from the spa to jumping out of the plane. When you walk up, what's the first thing that happens when you get to the location? Well,
Oh
what
my
happened?
gosh. It is a shack.
Oof.
I mean, the difference from 7 years ago and 3 years ago are like night and day. But the first thing I saw was a sign that said "Danger, jump at your own risk."
Okay, getting out there early.
So that's what I thought too. I said, "Well, let's just no, everybody's got that question, right?" I didn't tell my mother in for like probably 6 months
Mm.
because I knew, like, she would just, even though I'm done,
Right.
but I told her now, I turned 51 last week. So now you got other things to worry about flapping in the air, if you know what I mean.
Right,
When,
exactly.
so that's probably the second time is probably my last jump, but definitely the fuel behind this was in memory of my grandfather and the connection that we had. He moved to Miami and it was too cold, so he moved back to Key West. He was just an island boy, and from it's 2 miles by 4 miles, that island, and it's got like 20,000 people on it now.
So how did you go through, I'm sure, some kind of training or explanation of what you're about to do.
Right.
You have to suit up and then you get on the plane. How are you feeling once the plane takes off? I think that would be like the most, for me, that would probably be the most intense moment. Before you jumped, what was the most intense moment you had emotionally, mentally?
So, first of all, you need to understand that you're like wearing this guy, okay?
Yeah.
And you're laying down in the plane on top of somebody else who's not the same sex as you, and it's just weird, And then you look over and there's the other two, the instructor and the other jumper, and like literally the pilot was right here in my face.
Mm,
And so it was awkward AF. And they had trained us, obviously, but on the ground. what you do is, when the door opens, it's going to be really windy and
Right.
you're going to tuck and roll. I did that fine, but I wasn't prepared for the door to open. I mean, it's the antithesis of life, right?
Right.
Is
Sure.
like that moment being there, sitting on this where you can see the wings of the plane and you've never ever been in a situation like that before. So that was a great moment. The first time that I jumped, the next most exhilarating moment was when the parachute opened and I went like a brick wall. I just was shocked, and then your eyes open like saucers and you just float down for the next 6.5 minutes.
How long in total? It was probably like 7 or 8 minutes to drop. I mean,
Yeah, 7 or 8 minutes.
wow, that is such a short. It's like a decent roller coaster, right? I mean, it's just like
It's like a decent roller coaster, but it's
lengthwise.
it's crazy what time does up there. You're like, we don't fly.
Mm.
God, I'd love to fly.
Here at the Crossing It Off podcast, we are passionate about inspiring you in your bucket list lifestyle and empowering you to live out your list. We offer many resources to assist you in your bucket list journey, such as web resources in the show notes, bucket list mentoring services, my book Live Out Your Lists, a private Facebook group for you to share your bucket list success stories with others, and more. All of these can be found at crossingitoffpodcast.com. Find the resource that fits your need so that you can live out your list. Now back to the show. How was it, the view? Like, I've thought about putting this on my list, and like one of the things I've thought about is, I just want to do it someplace where the view's great. I mean, nothing against Kansas or, but I don't want to like just be floating over cornfields. How did it feel?
Not unless they're crop circles.
Yeah, but how did it feel like being over the Keys and seeing the islands? Was that part of the experience?
Yeah. So you could see the 7 Mile Bridge,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you could also see, you see the map behind me, how it's got different kinds of blues
Right.
and greens. That's always gonna be my Atlantic Ocean. I also, my mom moved out of Key West when my brother was two, I think. She was 21, and she ended up in St. Louis. So she met my dad there, and that's where I was born. But I was a conch from the minute I was born because I was my mother's
Right.
daughter. So I was treated like a princess in Key West. My father worked for the airlines. We flew for free, but we usually stopped in Miami and then drove the rest of the way back when the 7 Mile Bridge was the first one, where I mean literally I remember as a child like holding my breath, hoping that we weren't going to hit the other cars coming on the way. And then they built the new one, and you can see all that from the air.
Right.
So, and it's just, and the different colors of the water are because of the different elevation. And Key West, remember, is actually all it goes up to Biscayne Bay, is the third largest coral reef.
Right.
So I would definitely encourage you, Roger, if that's on your list, you need to make it down. Drive. It's about a 3 hour drive from Miami.
Right. That's probably easier for me to do than to go to like Dubai. Like that's the other place that I'm like, if I'm gonna parachute, if I'm gonna skydive, I'm gonna go to Dubai. I want to see something as I'm coming down. Like that has to be a part of it for me. So you jump, you have these 8 minutes of exhilaration and probably tranquility looking at the scenery. You get down and your feet are back on the ground. How do you feel?
Oh my gosh. I was worried about the landing, number one,
Mm,
but as it turned out, he's hooked to my shoulders, and I'm only 5'3" and he was about 6'2". So
there
it
you go.
it happened naturally that his feet hit first. I wanted it, I felt it did feel like a roller coaster ride. I wanted to do it again
Wow.
right then. You want to, and the guy was saying I that I had some natural proclivities to it when like he gave me the controls
Oh,
while
nice.
we were up there for a minute.
Uh-huh.
And it was harder than I thought. You had to pull down,
Right.
you know, it's like a rough Pilates class up there.
You again, I keep going back from you went to the spa to jumping out of a plane. And what
That's
was
kind of
your
how I roll.
yeah, I think that's awesome. That's a great way to live. Was there anything transformational about it for you? Was there after you did it, after you walked away from the landing, is there, and you're back relaxing someplace that night? Is there something that like stuck out to you that like, okay, this changed me and I think about the world a little differently?
So, that's so interesting that you bring that up because I talked a minute ago about climbing a rock with sciatica, and I had to climb it 3 times to feel satisfied. So this was very similar. I had to jump out of the plane twice to get that transformation. So the first time I jumped in memory of my grandfather, and it gave me courage.
Mm,
But the second time I jumped for my own freedom, declaring myself as a healthy woman, right? And that gives me hope.
mm, that's powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've been near death. I'm not afraid of that.
Mm.
But living is harder than dying.
It can be, that's for sure.
Yeah, it can be, and it can also be like exuberant and
Mm,
and wonderful. We have these ups and downs in this 3D realm. That's kind of maybe what I loved about it was that, you're in the spirit realm when you're jumping out of a plane, right? Like
mhm.
it's just the weirdest feeling. You're not on the ground. Gosh, I wish I could translate that through the airwaves.
Yeah,
It really is an accomplishment.
it sounds like it. If somebody else was, in a conversation with you and they said, "Oh, Adrienne, well, I want to do this too. I want to, I've been thinking about this and I'm not sure." Besides telling them just to do it, right? Like that's a lot of times that my guess, like, yeah, just do it. That's what you need to do. Is there some piece of advice, like in the process of skydiving, is there something you would tell them? Make sure you pay attention to this, or make sure what's something that you would say to them to like help enhance their experience?
Oh gosh, the first thing I'd say is that the instructors need to add in that when the parachute opens, you need to be ready.
Hmm.
So the second time I didn't feel like I hit a brick wall because I was waiting because you're in free fall until that chute opens. So the first 35 seconds of that is kind of scary.
Hmm.
And then that's why I was saying, the stay in your body,
Hmm.
stay in your body because the fear is going to go away when the chute opens,
Hmm.
right? You feel safe. You've got a guy that's controlling it that said he's got dinner reservations at 7. So he's confident, makes me feel confident. He's also got the camera going and like interacting with me while we're doing it. So like normalizing it in a way, if you know what I
Hmm.
mean,
Yeah.
making it easier for me. So I would definitely highly recommend that you get the video. I think the total was it might have been 200. I mean,
That's not bad.
it really isn't. And because you can, well, obviously with the video, you can edit it into stills
Sure.
and make sure it's not the one with your face like 4
Flop.
inches behind you.
Yeah, we don't want the Wile E. Coyote face going on. Yeah,
Right.
for sure. Adrian, what is something else that's on your bucket list?
I have really always wanted to go to Scotland.
Okay. Is there, I mean, I noticed you have a tinge of red in your hair. I don't know if
I
is that
have
part of it?
Scottish descent from my
Okay.
father. Yeah. Actually, that one line leads to William the Conqueror.
Okay.
We've done I've done a little more in my more recent years. When I was younger, I didn't really care much about that, to be honest. But now it's really interesting to me. So I've gotten like my maiden name is Blue, just like the color, and I've gotten the family crest.
Hmm. Is there anything specific in Scotland that you'd like to see or experience?
Um, I'd really actually like to make it a little bit of a genealogical trip.
Okay.
But I've heard it's beautiful. I might even consider, I know they've got those river cruises
Mm,
in Europe.
right. Yeah.
That's that I would like to do that, like do it on a river cruise and have the river cruise be to Scotland and then also to go while we're there to Ireland because that's where my husband's family's from Cork,
Hmm. Hmm.
Cork, Ireland. And so that's one that's next on my list, on my bucket list.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for being here. Is there someplace we can go online to like follow these adventures or hear more about the things that you do outside of jumping out of planes?
Sure. You can always find me at our website, which is www.thelodgedelrey.com, which is THELODGE.com. Or you can email me at Adrienne at adriennetichy.com.
Awesome. Adrian, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for jumping out of a plane for us. I appreciate it.
Not a
Uh,
problem, Roger. I'm encouraging you to do it, man.
okay. I once you get back from Scotland, let me know and we'll have you back on.
Sounds great. Sounds
Thank
like a plan.
thanks for being here.
Thanks.